artists will be told, unafaa kujibrand, unajua ni venye umejibrand, unafaa kujibrand. What are you being told when you're being told that?
Brand
in a pool
creates value.
Right.
Marketing extracts value.
Yo.
Right?
That's a moment. Brand creates value.
Yes.
Marketing extracts value.
Yeah. It's how you approach your stakeholders, your employees. It's the thing that determines all those things.
And sometimes, I don't know. So is a brand like a straight jacket? Because now you can't get out of it.
I don't think so. I mean, you could look at it that way, but if you're being true to yourself, then you're not feeling like you're straight-jacketed.
Welcome to another episode of the perFORM Music Incubator podcast. I'm so excited to be joined today by a good friend of mine and a great brand expert, Miss Nyambura Ngumba. Hi, baby.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
You look so lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I saw you.
I know.
But tell us who you are. What do you do? What are you doing on this pod today?
I'm Nyambura Ngumba, and I'm a brand and marketing communications expert. That's what I love to do. So the thing I do is I help people share their great work with the world. I work a lot with startups, a lot of people in the creative sector, and I'm also a teacher of Chartered Institute of Marketing courses. So I'm helping people, entrepreneurs, businesses to share their work with the world. Yeah.
Yum. I can advocate for you being a great teacher.
I love that.
In this last season of perFORM, we spent 3 months doing a thing called brand strategy. I had no idea what a brand strategy is, to be quite honest. I don't know what I thought. In fact, I don't think it's like at the end of brand strategy, I realized that, what I thought was brand strategy was just like some tactical things to help you sell a certain thing, a song, a product. That's not really a brand strat. And I really kind of the supremacy of the brand strategy over everything. I wonder if you could just start us off there.
Okay, great.
What is that thing?
So the brand is who you are. So I usually like to say, if you ask yourself, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing, as opposed to every other thing in the world that I could have done, whether if it's, like being an artist versus being a carpenter versus being a baker. Yeah. So if you tap into your why, that usually will tell you a lot about your brand. And then think about what it is you're doing aligned with that. So is it like music, or is it like drumming, or is it like decor, whatever that may be. And then how do you reflect your why in the what you're doing? All of that is what encompasses brand. And you can think about it from an individual perspective, but also as a business. Like there's a reason why you started doing this thing as opposed to anything else. It could be from a personal pain point, or, just wanting to share what you want to share with the world, looking out for community, people who are like you. So how your work reflects that drive is really what your brand is.
Got you.
And then brand, I always say, people imagine that it's built in a day, but brand is always going to be long term. You don't create a brand in one day, because there are aspects of loyalty, connection that are based on consistency, which means time. Yeah. So over time is when you build your brand, and that's how you build prominence, and that's how you will build recognizability wherever you are. Yeah. So it's the core. It's the inner thing that drives you. Yeah.
And it's long, right? Because a brand doesn't change. I think that's the other thing that I like, that light went off in my head last year, is that like, a brand doesn't change. It's like, I often think of Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Sir Richard Branson, like from when I read like his first book, like that idea, that ideal, that's the thing. And then it just cuts across all the ventures. They're just like, I don't know, just different presentations of the same idea.
Exactly.
Like he can't wake up like next week and be like anti-enterprise.
Nope. And adventure
or
as well.
Anti-adventure, Exactly. Now he can't be that like conservative guy. It's like, no, that's not your brand.
Yeah.
So then sometimes, I don't know. So is a brand like a straight jacket? Because now you can't get out of it.
I don't think so. I mean, you could look at it that way, but if you're being true to yourself, then you're not feeling like you're straitjacketed. Yeah. So if you have curated what your brand is to be, but it is not true to you, then you will feel like you're a straitjacket. So if like Sir Richard Branson is a free spirit who loves like, breaking molds, but he created the brand, let's say, structured and like, super strict, very focused, then of course after a while he will feel constricted. Because it is like there's no movement. But the thing about brand and with it being long term, there's still room for growth. If you think of a company like Apple, they did not remain one thing, right? So the thing that I consider their brand and what they say their brand is digital innovation. But that's why they can have Apple Music, they can have Apple Podcasts, they can have Apple TV. It doesn't mean that now you're stuck to one lane, but if it's at the core of what you do, then it will spill over into all these other things that you're doing. It shouldn't feel limiting, but you will see the common thread running through.
Yeah. So it's just
everything.
Like a flower blooming.
Exactly.
But it's still the same flower.
It's still the same flower. Yeah.
Another thing I didn't know about brand is like the all-encompassing nature of it. So when you're building your brand strategy, you start at your big, first your why.
Yes.
And then the challenges to the why, kind of refining your why. But I was like, the brand strat also includes like your audience, like who is the user, even that's not a thing I knew about a brand strategy. Like, why is that so important? Why is that in the strat? Or the elements of a strat, maybe I can widen the question, so kind of what are the elements of a good strat? What ought to be in your, I'm an artist, I've hired a marketing, my pal who's in marketing, they're helping me build my brand strat. What are the things I'm looking out for that tells me, I'm on the right path?
Okay. So I think one of the things, like when we're talking about your why, is maybe thinking about your true north or what's at the height of your excellence. If everything went entirely well for you forever, what would that look like? Because then that also tells you which direction you want to go to. So, I mean, some people will call it a vision. So that's what you need to think about, your why and where that leads you. Another thing that's really important in defining these things is to know what your added value is. So what sets you apart from every...
My USP.
Your USP.
Oh my
gosh, what a good student, right? So your
tough,
proposition.
Making us to find our value proposition.
I know, but
that was very hard.
I know, but you need to think about what is the thing that sets you apart from every other artist, every other person doing the same thing that you do. And I hear a lot of entrepreneurs saying, just start the business because no one is doing it the way you are. And that is true. But you need to put your finger on that off the jump. Because at the same time, you need to then think about the audience. I mean, all of us have so many things in this world that are bombarding us, even just from news, from family demands. So curating what it is that we want to bring into that bubble is really important for you to understand. Now, a lot of times people will think of brand with a particular audience in mind. Like maybe I want to attract a certain demographic or a certain age, and that's who I desire to. But there's sometimes in figuring out your brand strategy, you will realize that that's not the messaging you're putting out. That's not the values that you ascribe to are not held by those people. So sometimes it's also important to look at who you attract where brand is concerned rather than who you are seeking to. Yeah, because
so who is already
yeah,
yours?
who is already yours, who has already come to you without you handing them, giving them messages,
Right.
calling them to tell them these call to actions,
Yeah.
who resonated with your message, who resonated with the values. So values are really important as well in your brand strategy, because then it also acts as the guiding principles of how you will continue over time, right? Whether it's innovation or, other, or this idea of integrity, So there's several things that I think if you imagine you're not the only one, I mean, you have a team, what will guide them to know that, okay, in this decision, this is how we should align. And all those things are based on your true north, your values, where you want to go, your unique value proposition. And this is determined based on who else is in the market or doing similar things to you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that helps you with positioning.
Yeah.
To say that.
That's another one that was a killer.
Yeah.
What is brand positioning? It would just tell guys, go watch. Hey.
Yeah. So I guess I would put it this way. A statement you can use is, I provide X to Y in a way that Z. Yeah. So the thing that your audience perceives of you, that is what helps you position yourself, right? Because positioning is now from the perception of your audience. You've decided what your USP is. The thing that I bring that is different from anyone else is uniqueness. That I do it in a hand-holding way. Like, let me talk about myself. Maybe when I think about like my consulting work, the thing that I feel that is different is maybe that, I have different industry experience. But then the question is, the people I am approaching for work, is that what they're seeing? Or what do they value more? Maybe it's that I have a longer number of years of experience across different brand marketing and communications disciplines. So understanding your positioning then tells you, okay, so then I'm not going to look at SMEs, I'll look at only corporates.
Right.
Because
they
understand the value that I bring,
Yeah.
So whether that's in terms of monetary billing, or if it's whether if it's the length of time that we are engaged, that could be the things that I'm looking at in terms of my positioning. For an artist, then it's to say, based on this proposition, then I know I can position myself to reach this kind of sponsors or partners, because then we're aligned in this way. They will see that I match based on these specific things. So that's the way think perception driven when you think about positioning.
Perception driven. Okay. So now I want to ask you, because this is a thing that we hear artists all the time. We are told all the time. I guess now it's better for me because I did perform. So now I know.
Yeah.
But all the time artists will be told, unafaa kujibrand. Unajua ni venye umejibrand, unafaa kujibrand.
Yeah.
What are you being told when you're being told that? What does that, what is, because that's an insight. The person who's telling you kujibrand, what are they saying? What are you really being told as an artist? And what is my action, from there? Ebu tell me, ebu jibrand. Unafaa kujibrand.
So I think, and of course, this is just from my opinion or my perspective looking in. I think what a lot of people, first, there's a lot of people who confuse what branding is.
Indeed. That's what am I normally being told?
The thing they might be referring to is more like brand identity. So like the way for a company, it would be a logo, a typeface.
Right.
This is the vibe or whatever. So I think for an artist, it's more like, how are you presenting yourself? So I think at the end of the day, it goes down to consistency. So it could be that there's nothing you present that is always the same. But also sometimes people take it with a grain of salt. Someone is saying that, but they don't understand what they're asking of you.
Because me, when I was being told, when you make brand, what I understood from that specifically is it's the way you perceive me. So it has very little to do with what I'm doing tactically or whatever. It's kind of like in your imagination, my share of your imagination, right? So then it's like when I encounter Jay-Z, it's like, oh, GOAT, like excellence, like entrepreneur, hustler, like make that money, stay streets, even if you're a billionaire, like even your Meji brand, So then often when there was the Ujaji brand, it kind of told me it's like, there's no mental picture. I'm not able to place you sequeleri, like who are you? Like what are you about? Is that what we're normally being told?
It could be that, but I also believe that not every brand is for everyone, because it could just be that they're not your audience. Now, the challenge becomes if you're trying to reach a mainstream audience, and now there is where I'm like, those are second, third audiences. But if you think about your core audience, even Jay-Z is not for everyone. So maybe it's at the level of his business acumen and growth that now everyone ranks him. But you see, not everyone listens to Jay-Z's albums. Yeah. And so a lot of people are not fans in that sense of the music.
Yeah.
So,
but they're fans of the they're fans of the story.
They're fans of the story. They're fans of everything that has come outside of that. But in that sense, there could be someone who maybe listens only to alternative rock, who is like, I wish Jay-Z branded himself better. Yeah. But it's just because they're not his audience. They're not the user. They're not the fan.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's also need to have that clarity in understanding who is my core, who is my user, who is my audience, because they will identify that brand. Now, when you're talking about things like what you're putting out there and all of that, that's now dependent on now like marketing. So maybe they're not seeing like the projects that you're putting out, but it's probably also because they're not in the place where you would usually. So if I don't read Source magazine, then maybe I'm not aware about some of the happenings in the music industry, say, for example. So I always say the thing about brand is it's very internal facing, and you have to think about it more as pull. You're not pushing yourself onto people. It's the thing that you do that whoever is meant to be attracted to it will be. Yeah. Now, with marketing, there's more short term. It's like, I need to put this single out. We're going to push it. We're going to get streams. These are the things that we're going to do. It will still be aligned to these things we've determined. But if it catches more people, then that's great. But when you think of brand, think of pull. It's emotional. It's loyalty. It's long term. So people might say it's brand identity, like, now I don't see you as much, or those things that you are saying are about, I don't rank you. But then are they your user as well?
I rank you, but you're not presenting yourself the way my imagination tells me that you should be. Like in my head, I'm like, you're the biggest, you're the realest. So why aren't you show me that you're the biggest, you're the realest? And that's often like a piece of like feedback where artists are like, okay, because so what do you want me to do? You want me to put on a play for you? You want me to put on a performance? Like, what should I, now that I have received that insight, where do I go from there as an artist?
And I guess maybe it also depends on who is saying it. Because if it's like somebody who's in the media or someone who is in the place to make you that, or give you that platform that they're foreseeing, then the next question would be relevant in terms of a clarifying question of what does that look like for you? When you're saying, Sijaji brand, nani ameji brand, but when you, as a brand, or when you're doing the branding work, because it is core, it can't be driven by what everyone is saying, because everyone will have a different view of what you should present. But this is the thing that drives from the inside out.
Dispel a myth for us.
Okay.
So you make a certain kind of music. Now you want to make another kind of music. And now you're like, oh, I now need to chase a new audience. Or it's like, oh, now you need to get onto like the TikTok Gen Zs. They need to be yours, and then like, because that's a thing that often artists are told, you need to rebrand yourself. You have to rebrand yourself. You have to go for another audience. And I mean, it's kind of confusing as an artist because if brand is long term, what do you mean rebrand? Like my brand is my brand is my brand. So am I really meant to be changing to chase a new user? How, yeah. In fact, yeah, I'm not going to add to that.
So I would say, and maybe let me put it this way.
Yeah.
So that there's a difference between brand and marketing. I think a lot of people
actually, let's start
confuse
there. Indeed.
that, right?
Yeah.
So I think brand is core. Not I think, brand is core,
Supreme.
right? It's supreme.
Brand
it's the
over
thing
everything.
over everything. And because remember, it's the driving force. It's the thing
it's the big why.
It's your big why. It's the thing that helps you not just approach like your audience, it's how you approach your stakeholders, your employees. It's the thing that determines all those things. All right. Now, brand will pull people to you. Now, marketing is specific short-term goals with a specific action that you require, and it's usually targeted to a very specific audience. Right? So it is possible to then do a marketing campaign for this one album that you have determined will fit this audience, and this audience.
Right.
But it shouldn't change the brand, because if you are innovative, fun, expressive, whatever, that should translate whether you are doing kigosho music versus jazz versus all these things are translating into that. So I think a rebrand is not necessary in the sense that core doesn't change, but it is possible to have different marketing messaging short term to reach a certain goal. That's the other thing.
Right.
It's
marketing
is to extract. It is goal based. It is like financial goal, or you have a specific target that you need to reach.
Right.
For 3 months, for 6 months, then you figure out the things that you need to do based on that. So if you think about it this way, brand is if you came to me and said, "Wow, Nyambura, you're so cool." Marketing is me coming to you and saying, "Modani, do you know that I am so cool?"
Right.
So with brand, there's something you've assessed from interaction with me. But with marketing, I'm telling you, this is it.
Right. Marketing, you're selling.
I'm selling.
Brand, nimejileta.
Yes. Brand
in a pool
creates value.
Right.
Marketing extracts value.
Yo.
Right.
That's a moment. Brand creates value.
Yes.
Marketing extracts value. Yeah. Right.
So I'm telling you, buy. I'm telling you, stream. There's a very specific goal. So in that sense, you can have multiple projects, going back to what you were asking, and say that, okay, maybe the song that I've released now is about young love. Now, I'm not going to leave behind the people who have always been my stans. After all, because they believe in the thing, they're coming with you however you're going. I might not stream as much, but I mean, I'm still a fan. I mean, like, I think about how many people hate country music, but we listen to Beyonce's country songs because they are Beyonce fans. Right? So that core, that brand, that thing that people have believed in regardless will come. But I bet you they're doing marketing in Nashville for these songs because that is the new audience, and the audience that would typically fall into the category for these songs that she's releasing now. So I don't think it shifts her brand. It's just a new marketing technique based on the thing that you're trying to extract value.
Right. Yeah. And I think that really ties in with another conversation we had on this pod around publicity. Because I think that's the other, can I call it the other blind spot for a lot of us artists, I would say. Kind of like, now publicity and marketing. Because brand, I think, that one is kind of clear. Brand is you, is your wise. Brand is you.
Yeah.
Okay, now marketing is tactical. I have this song, I have this merchandise, I have this show, I have this thing that I have a short-term
goal that I need to.
It's on a specific date. There's a specific window. I want you to do something very specific. Usually it'll have an outcome and a payoff. For you, the payoff is you get the song or you get the merch. For me, the payoff is probably financial.
Exactly.
Now publicity. Now when publicity has entered the mix.
Okay.
So the way you said brand is, oh, Nyambura, you're really cool.
Yeah.
Marketing is, hey, do you know I'm really cool?
Yeah.
And now publicity.
publicity is, hey, Nyambura, I heard you're really cool. So this means someone has told you.
So publicity is reputation.
It is reputation. That is exactly it. So PR, publicity, it means reputation management. It means that someone else is speaking on your behalf of your greatness. Yeah. It's the third opinion. And a lot of the times, you see, with marketing, it's paid. So I know you're telling me and you have put money behind saying, I'm so great. But with PR, it's that I should trust the media house, you know, or I should trust the whoever is introducing me, the investor, whoever it is who has told you that Nyambura is so cool, you trust them. So, but it would need for me as Nyambura to have created the network with that person to be like, hey, have you heard of this, my music, this, my whatever? And a lot of times, I think things have changed now, but it's earned. It's not paid. That's the difference with publicity. It's on the strength of how dope you are. It's on the strength of how you're changing the world. It's on the strength of how incredible your music is. So it shouldn't be that you're paying someone to say something about you. That's not publicity in the true sense. That should really still just be marketing.
Right.
But publicity is
when
earned.
I pay somebody, when I pay an influencer to do a campaign
Correct.
with me, when
that
I pay,
is still marketing.
That's all marketing.
That's still marketing.
Right. PR is the one that is earned from somebody who told somebody, hey, that baby's so dope. And we listen to this song. This artist is so dope.
It's what influencing used to be when I buy the product for myself. You didn't send it to me. I love it. And I'm like, guys, have you tried this thing? It's so great. I've put it on my skin.
Right.
Similar to that. But now, of course, the thing about publicity, I feel like sometimes will narrate more to media. But if you think about public relations, it should be all your stakeholders. It means that anyone you do events with is also part of your PR team, because how they work with you means that they will influence the other team, event management teams in how they work with you. You know, so all your various stakeholders you should consider in terms of your reputation management. But when you're looking at publicity from the media standpoint, then it means that your reputation has garnered strength, credibility.
So tell me, so when we go on media tours, what are we doing?
It is really that publicity.
So the media tour, what is my KPI on the media tour is
reputation building, I assume. That is what I would imagine it is. Yeah. So it's the idea is if you have been invited to do the media tour, it already means they rank you. So for me, that already says I can believe the fourth estate. Yeah, because there is someone who will not have a media tour.
Right.
So
it's like by being there, it's a thing, a thumb of approval. You've
already earned the media tour. That is the ideal. Of course, now, realistically speaking, sometimes some people will
pay for the
media tours. Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's also a factor, but the challenge now becomes people don't understand. The user who is watching, I don't know, maybe like 10 over 10 doesn't know that you paid. I just assume that everyone who comes on here is here because they are great.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's the reputation.
Because that's the reputation of the show. Right? To put people on.
Right.
But I always find that, you see, if the brand is not supporting this thing that you have presented here, your reputation, then it will still crumble. I mean, we will know in the future that you are not as great to be on that show if the longevity is not there, or, you know, then I will be like, oh, it was a gimmick.
Right?
Yeah, but ideally, it should be earned.
Which is also, that makes sense, where it's like after some years, there was an artist that you are so locked into, and then you're like, wait, like whatever they present and where the art is, it's like, oh, this is all a gimmick. A gimmick is a function of marketing, no?
Yes. It is. It can be. To sell.
Yeah, to sell.
Right?
Yeah, to make it like you're saying, exciting, whatever.
Nowadays, the thing is, be viral, get viral, you know?
So virality is a function of marketing.
Exactly.
That's not publicity.
Nope.
Posting on social media, what is that? Is that marketing? Is that publicity? It's marketing. Is it?
It
What is it?
is.
What is
It
that?
is.
It because it's still me who is saying, hey, check me out, see this.
So the way I view it is it's just communication about who you are.
Right.
So there's some posts that you can say are brand because essentially I'm trying to show you who I am. That's
Right.
what brings you in.
Right.
But it's marketing when you're putting budget to it, when you have a call to action, share here, do this, stream
Subscribe here.
whatever. So
Right.
I think if you think about everything you put out as brand building, brand management, and then there's some times that you will have specific calls to action. And sometimes even like a regular post, like a day in the life, you might not consider it a marketing gimmick or whatever, but it will give you some insight maybe into your audience, into the kind of content they like or how they relate with you in terms of the comments, like the likes. Then you'll be like, oh, the reel I did about the behind the scenes of this podcast did so much better than
the actual podcast,
Yeah. So then it tells you people are leaning into real content, unpolished, non-edited. So then you can be like, okay, how much of that am I willing to continue to give people while still staying true to?
Got you.
Yeah. So
brand over everything. Okay. I want to ask you another one.
Yeah.
Which is kind of I really want to stay on this kind of social media, social media as a tool to find and build audiences. Because in many ways, that's the easiest thing that we have as artists. It doesn't matter at Beyonce level, you've just had it out in your bedroom today level.
Yeah.
We kind of all have access to the same platforms. So there's a real question for artists about like, what is this thing? What is an optimal use? How does our social media tie into, these elements of brand, into elements of marketing, into elements of publicity? Though it feels very clear to me, like publicity necessarily has a media component. Yeah, because it's like third party reputation building.
Yeah.
Though you also said public relations then would mean like also stakeholders and whatever those could be. But yeah, how does social media just kind of fit into this environment of brand, of marketing, of publicity? What's a way that we can really think about it? Because that's a thing we all have access to.
Okay. So what I would say is you can think of your social media as owned media. Like you own that media.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I am the Kiss 100.
You are the Kiss 100. Right. In the same way that you would think of like a website.
Right.
Yeah. Where you are the determinant of what goes on there, how often it goes on there, what kind of content it is. So in publicity, think of that as earned media. Think of the things you actually put money to, ads, whatever, as paid media, and think of your social media as your own. So what do you want to tell people? Yeah, if you are the broadcaster, what is the thing that you want to put out? So I do feel that it is relevant to have social media, but I also feel like it's relevant to know who your user is so that you can determine how you're using that social media. So if I think about it from businesses' perspectives, like if you have a customer who is only business, like you only deal B2B, maybe TikTok is not the place for you. Yeah. Because the demographic there might not be related to the work that you do. However, it doesn't mean that you don't have TikTok. Right? It just means that you might not prioritize it. So you might use all these social media tools, think of them as just to build awareness, just for people to know you exist. For searchability, if I go on Google and write MDQ, it helps the web crawlers know that, oh, there's someone in the web sphere that does all these things. However, the creation of the content, I think, should be driven by where your audience is. Yeah. So if your audience is on Instagram and that's a platform that you want to use as your own media, do that. If it's Facebook, then do that. There's some people who are like, my audience is definitely not on Facebook. But you might still keep a presence there just for awareness. So if anyone ever searches on Facebook, they will see you. Right? So think about it as a digital footprint, but where you put your effort should be driven by where your audience is.
Where is the bulk of your
where
audience?
the bulk of your audience.
Yeah.
And also based on what you want your audience to do. So like maybe sometimes I'll post on TikTok, but I'm not expecting engagement. Yeah. No one will be like, where can I get XYZ? So that's just to post. But if I'm looking for deeper insights into my audience, into the things they want, so that based on these questions they're asking me in the comments, I know how to position my messaging for the next drop. Right? So it's okay to have a full social media presence. Think about it as your owned media. Think about it as a digital footprint, but use your audience to determine where you use most of your effort. And then I think sometimes also think about what you can be consistent in. Because I think that's the thing people forget. So you start a TikTok, but you didn't think about your strategy for TikTok or which videos you'll be putting there. So then now you post once, twice, 3 times, and then you disappear. The reality is a lot of these platforms also reward consistency. So you will get more followers because of posting more and all of that. So thinking about, don't be there just to be there.
Yeah, so it's, to me, it sounds like, not to me, it sounds like, let me tell you what I've taken from what you said. When you said social media, as an artist interfacing with social media platforms, the emphasis is on the media part, right? So then it's like, if I think about this as my Kiss 100 or my KTN home, then it's like, what am I literally programming on this channel? And therefore, if I program and the programs are working, I am likely to incite a conversation or like some feedback loop with the person who is consuming the program. And they have now the opportunity to build that sort of social currents, that community, that network.
Exactly.
But if I don't approach it as media, I'm going to get tired halfway, because then I started a TikTok and I hadn't thought about, how do I program this TikTok? Like, what are the actual products that go on this TikTok? Okay, let's say I want to do challenges. So when do you film the challenges? How many challenges are you putting up a week? So then you lack the consistency. It's just like a TV station which starts, and then you hadn't thought about
what programming
this program on
want.
Thursday at 3 p.m. There has to be a program every week at that 3 p.m. to keep the user engaged with the channel. Otherwise, they're going to go to where they can find that entertainment piece.
Which is true. But then there's the reality of social media is also that there's a personal touch.
Indeed.
So there's that aspect where we can look at it pretty clinical, like from the marketing perspective, like a media, whatever. But then remember, especially if we're looking in the context of an artist, people are relating to you as an individual. You yourself are also part of the brand. So there are some aspects of maybe your values or the challenges that you have, or, like those day in the life, the regular things that you do that you might want to also put on there that, so it's like KTN having a behind the scenes of making this program.
Indeed.
Because then I'm more invested in being in the program. So that's just a way to think about it. But there are some people who do their social media with purely work things. So I'm only putting the work that I've put out, but I guess that determines how people will approach you. You'll know the engagement. If that is the purpose for which you have set it out to do, then
Yeah. So I guess I revise my position. So it's a blend. But like the approach, you approach it as media, then ask how much of that media you will add your own personal touch or your own self or your own values.
But ideally,
because you have to create this content. This is the other piece of consistency. You have to create this content.
True.
You have to predict kind of like, I post Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
True. But remember, your brand is happening regardless.
Indeed.
Yeah. So yes, there's an aspect of curation, but it's also part of everything that is already happening in your world. So today you're here at the podcast, the next day you're at the studio. There's things that are happening in your world that are still based on putting out this product or this feature.
Yeah.
So if you think about it as media in that perspective, and then you're only focusing on the finished product, the features, the thing that will improve your life in such and such way, then you're missing out on the emotional component, the connection, the social part of the platform.
Of the social media,
So that's why it's a bit more of a blend where I'm like, think about your audience on there and the connection that you want to build there. I mean, you can also just make it only videos of work, but then where's the connection? And everyone who goes on social media, the reality is you're there either to escape whatever is happening in your day-to-day life, or for entertainment, or for searching for information. So if you think about what your user is doing on Instagram, then you also need to be like, they won't come to my page if I'm not giving the thing that they need. Right?
Yeah.
So it's
also
it's
the
a tricky
supremacy
balance
of the user.
Yes.
So social media, like the supremacy of the user. It sounds to me like that's the, but you would have locked your loser when your user. When you were doing your brand strat, you would have absolute clarity about who is your actual user and kind of what is that value that they derive from you. And that means also you have to ask them.
You have to ask them. But the other thing I usually say is sometimes you don't have to guess, especially on social media. They have inbuilt tools that tell you things about your audience. So you should be having your professional tools and going and seeing, oh, okay, most of my audience is based in Kenya. The large majority of the people who interact with my content are women between the age of XYZ. That already tells you more information about who your user is, or maybe who the user you are attracting is, even though that's not the one that you thought you would. Yeah, because then that tells you, oh, okay, so my content is resonating with women between the age of XYZ in an East African context. So how can I build on that?
Or if I don't want to build on that, how do I pivot?
Think about what is it that I'm doing that is attracting this person, as opposed to
the one I want in my head.
Yeah. And maybe it's to sometimes determine that, okay, maybe I'm not for the one I want in my head.
Indeed.
Yeah, maybe you are not a luxury brand. Sorry to you.
Accept where you are.
Yeah, so
and build where you are.
Yeah, or be like, oh, okay, so my communication is not aligning with the person that I want to reach. Yeah. And if I shift my communication to meet that need, will I still be true to brand? Or will I now be pretending to reach this audience that I have determined? Yeah.
Nyambura, I want to ask you one last question. Oh my God, I remember why I love you so much. You're just so brilliant. I just want to ask you one last question that had been sent in, right? So when an artist is told all the time, you're so underrated, which part do they need to solve? Do they need to solve the brand part, the marketing part, or the publicity part?
Oh, that's a good question.
So they've put out good work and somebody's definitely watching because they're getting the comments for like, this is so underrated. Kenyans, come here. Kenyans, we need to get this to 1 million. You see us with those comments. So that was a question, like, what is the, not problem, but what is the opportunity there? What is that insight? What should they interpret from that statement?
Yeah. The thing about it is I feel like underrated or something like that is so subjective.
So is it the people on the inside who feel there should be more people on the inside?
Yes.
Okay, so that means it's already fans who are talking to this artist.
I believe it could be fans or it could be people who are discovering you for the first time and didn't know that they are fans.
Right.
Yeah. So the thing I would say is you map out who is this person who thinks you're underrated. Why haven't they come across you before? Or why do they think that you are underrated? And I would even dare to say it's okay to be underrated if you already have your following. I think of like Just a Band. They're not for everyone, but they have a cult following.
True.
Yeah. So in that situation, some person might say that they're underrated, but that's because they're not on
they're not in the
platform of, they're not on 10 over 10. They're not on all these other things. We are not seeing TikToks of them doing stuff.
you've just said something powerful there, because they're not maybe being seen in those spaces where there's mass publics. So a function of both publicity and marketing. So they're not being seen in the places others who are comparative to them are being seen. So ending up with this idea of underrated. So then in that situation, if that specific artist wanted to do something, so the action there is to turn up the volume on what? On the marketing and on the publicity?
So now for me, the question is, why do they want to do something about it if they already have a loyal following? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's that thing of, am I for everybody? Yeah. So you can ramp up and be like, okay, we'll do more tours with media. But if you've already determined that your user is this person who doesn't watch TV, who follows you on blogs and would rather follow your and they'll pay for your music. Like, what is the end goal for you in getting that bigger audience? Yeah. So I think for me, it's like, and I understand that there are other dynamics in terms of financial obligations and all of that would make you want to reach more people and that kind of thing. But maybe it's that you can charge more the few people that are already inside because they already believe in the thing as it is. So I still feel like it's a subjective one. And it's okay to have other audiences. So maybe, put yourself out there more, but in a way that you're still being true to your brand.
Correct.
So
supremacy of brand,
because that is the thing that will bring consistency. That is the thing that will bring loyalty. That is the thing that makes you more long-term. Yeah.
On that extremely dope point,
Yay.
We're going to wrap up this pod. Thanks so much. Thanks for being an awesome teacher to us at perFORM and just for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah.
You're on season 1 of the pod. You're back on this season. Basically, you're never getting rid of us, is what I'm saying.
And I would never want to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. It's Nyambura. Find her. We're going to put all the information in the video. So see you on the next pod. Bye.
Bye.